Several free wire pulling calculators are available to help determine the appropriate parameters for safe and effective wire installation. These tools assist in calculating pull force, taking into account various factors that influence the tension on the wire during the pulling process. Firstly, Southwire offers a load calculator which can be found at their website. Secondly, C-Source provides a wire pulling calculator available on their website. Thirdly, Sparkeys has a wire pulling calculator that can be accessed online. Fourthly, there's an electrical engineering calculator with a wire pull calculation function. Fifthly, Wireman offers a power line calculator for wire pulling calculations. These calculators typically offer a range of features designed to simplify the wire pulling process and ensure safety. One key feature is the ability to calculate pull force, usually expressed in foot-pounds. This calculation takes into account the wire size, type, and conduit size, which are critical factors in determining the overall tension on the wire. Users can input specific details about the wire, such as its gauge, material type, and insulation characteristics, as well as the conduit's diameter and material. Another important feature is the ability to specify segment lengths and pull direction. The wire pulling process often involves multiple segments with varying lengths and angles. The calculator allows users to input the length of each segment and the direction of the pull, which can significantly impact the overall pull force. This feature is particularly useful for complex installations with multiple bends and changes in direction. Furthermore, the calculators are designed to flag unacceptable conditions, such as excessive pull force. If the calculated pull force exceeds the recommended limits for the wire and conduit being used, the calculator will alert the user to the potential risk of damage or failure. This feature helps prevent costly mistakes and ensures the safety of the installation. Many wire pulling calculators also provide a detailed report or spreadsheet of calculations. This report includes all the input parameters, such as wire size, conduit size, segment lengths, and pull direction, as well as the calculated pull force and any flagged warnings. The report can be used for documentation purposes and to verify the accuracy of the calculations. When using wire pulling calculators, it's important to consider several factors to ensure accurate and reliable results. One consideration is the specific conduit types and fill percentages. Some calculators may require you to enter specific information about the conduit being used, such as its material, diameter, and fill percentage. This information is necessary to accurately calculate the friction and resistance encountered during the pull. The accuracy of the calculations may vary depending on the calculator used. It's important to choose a calculator that is based on sound engineering principles and validated by industry standards. Additionally, it's always a good idea to compare the results of multiple calculators to ensure consistency and accuracy. Always refer to manufacturer guidelines and consult with qualified electricians for specific wire pulling situations. Wire pulling can be a complex and potentially dangerous task, and it's important to follow all safety precautions and guidelines. Consulting with a qualified electrician can help ensure that the wire pulling process is performed safely and effectively. In addition to using wire pulling calculators, there are several other tools and techniques that can be used to simplify the wire pulling process and reduce the risk of damage or injury. One common tool is a wire lubricant, which is applied to the wire to reduce friction and make it easier to pull through the conduit. Wire lubricants are available in various formulations, including water-based, silicone-based, and wax-based products. The choice of lubricant depends on the type of wire and conduit being used, as well as the environmental conditions. Another useful tool is a wire pulling grip, which is attached to the end of the wire and used to pull it through the conduit. Wire pulling grips are available in various sizes and designs, including basket grips, pulling eyes, and swivel grips. The choice of grip depends on the size and type of wire being used, as well as the pulling force required. In addition to tools and equipment, proper planning and preparation are essential for successful wire pulling. Before starting the wire pulling process, it's important to inspect the conduit for any obstructions or damage. Any sharp edges or burrs should be removed to prevent damage to the wire. It's also important to ensure that the conduit is properly supported and secured to prevent it from moving or collapsing during the pull. When pulling wire through multiple bends or long distances, it's often helpful to use intermediate pull points. These pull points allow you to break the pull into smaller segments, reducing the overall pulling force and making the process easier and safer. Intermediate pull points can be created using pull boxes, junction boxes, or other suitable enclosures. During the wire pulling process, it's important to maintain a steady and consistent pulling force. Avoid jerking or sudden movements, which can damage the wire or conduit. If the pulling force becomes excessive, stop and reassess the situation. Check for any obstructions or damage to the wire or conduit, and consider using additional lubrication or intermediate pull points. After the wire pulling process is complete, it's important to inspect the wire for any damage or defects. Check for cuts, abrasions, or other signs of wear and tear. If any damage is found, the wire should be replaced to ensure the safety and reliability of the electrical system. Finally, it's important to document the wire pulling process for future reference. Record the wire size, type, conduit size, segment lengths, pull direction, and calculated pull force. This information can be useful for troubleshooting purposes and for verifying the accuracy of future wire pulling calculations. In conclusion, free wire pulling calculators are valuable tools for determining the appropriate parameters for safe and effective wire installation. These calculators can help calculate pull force, input wire and conduit size, and identify unacceptable conditions. However, it's important to use these calculators with caution and to always refer to manufacturer guidelines and consult with qualified electricians for specific wire pulling situations. By following these guidelines, you can ensure that the wire pulling process is performed safely and effectively, and that the electrical system is reliable and safe. Remember that while these calculators provide helpful estimations, they are not a substitute for professional expertise. Consulting with a licensed electrician is crucial, especially for complex or critical installations. They can assess the specific conditions of the job site, identify potential hazards, and ensure that the wiring is installed in accordance with all applicable codes and regulations. Furthermore, always prioritize safety when working with electrical systems. To energize the circuit before starting any work, wear appropriate personal protective equipment, and follow all safety procedures. Electrical work can be dangerous, and it's important to take all necessary precautions to prevent injury or property damage. The use of wire pulling calculators is a valuable aid in the process of electrical installations, ensuring efficiency and safety. They provide a means to estimate the forces involved in pulling wires through conduits, which helps in selecting the appropriate tools and techniques. Accurate calculations can prevent damage to the wires, reduce the risk of injury, and ensure compliance with electrical codes. When selecting a wire pulling calculator, it is important to consider its features and capabilities. Some calculators offer more advanced features such as the ability to account for multiple bends, different conduit types, and various wire lubricants. Choose a calculator that meets your specific needs and provides accurate and reliable results. In addition to using wire pulling calculators, there are several other factors to consider when planning and executing a wire pulling job. These factors include the type of wire being used, the size and type of conduit, the length of the pull, and the number of bends in the conduit run. Each of these factors can affect the amount of force required to pull the wire, and it is important to take them into account when planning the job. The type of wire being used is a critical factor in determining the pulling force. Different types of wire have different coefficients of friction, which affect the amount of force required to pull them through the conduit. For example, THHN wire has a lower coefficient of friction than XHHW wire, so it will require less force to pull. The size and type of conduit also affect the pulling force. Larger conduits and conduits with smoother interiors will generally require less force to pull the wire. The length of the pull is another important factor. Longer pulls will require more force than shorter pulls due to the increased friction between the wire and the conduit. The number of bends in the conduit run can also significantly increase the pulling force. Each bend adds resistance, making it more difficult to pull the wire. When planning a wire pulling job, it is important to carefully consider all of these factors and to use a wire pulling calculator to estimate the required pulling force. This will help you select the appropriate tools and techniques and ensure that the job is done safely and efficiently. In addition to using a wire pulling calculator, it is also important to follow proper wire pulling techniques. These techniques include using a wire lubricant, avoiding sharp bends, and using a pulling eye or grip that is properly sized for the wire being pulled. Wire lubricant reduces the friction between the wire and the conduit, making it easier to pull the wire. It is important to use a lubricant that is compatible with the type of wire being used. Sharp bends should be avoided, as they can increase the pulling force and damage the wire. If bends are necessary, they should be as gradual as possible. A pulling eye or grip should be used to attach the wire to the pulling rope or cable. The pulling eye or grip should be properly sized for the wire being pulled to prevent damage to the wire. When pulling wire, it is important to use a steady and controlled pulling force. Avoid jerking or sudden movements, as these can damage the wire or the conduit. If the pulling force becomes excessive, stop and reassess the situation. It may be necessary to use a larger pulling rope or cable, or to add additional lubricant. Following these tips and using a wire pulling calculator can help ensure that wire pulling jobs are done safely and efficiently. Remember to always consult with a qualified electrician for any electrical work that you are not comfortable doing yourself. Electrical work can be dangerous, and it is important to take all necessary precautions to prevent injury or property damage. Therefore, remember to consider all relevant factors such as wire type, conduit characteristics, pull length, and bend quantity. Proper planning and careful execution, along with the use of online calculators as a tool, can help you avoid pitfalls in completing your electrical work.